Hello, and welcome to another fully live Q&A episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Kody Kinsey. I am a security researcher at Varonis, and today I have my good friend and fellow hacker, Alex Lin, on to help me answer your live questions and also any questions that have been left on the YouTube channel. So I've also got some questions in the dark message request section of my Twitter that I'm also going to be answering. So if you have a question and it hasn't been answered before, feel free to shout it out in the chat and we will try to answer it during the show. And if we missed your question, and if you're watching this on repeat, then you can always leave a comment on the video and we will make sure on YouTube anyway that we will see that and respond to it on the next Q&A session. So Alex and I are just getting back from our Thanksgiving, so we are starting a little bit late today, but hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving holiday and yeah, a happy Max Headroom Signal Intrusion Broadcast Day, if you also celebrate that.
When was that?
That was just before Thanksgiving.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Nice little date to note. So Alex and I have been busy creating Wi-Fi nuggets. That has been our project for the last couple of weeks now. And Alex is currently obsessed with playing his KeyCAD game and trying to get the next version of the Wi-Fi nugget up and running. So we've been pretty busy with that, but we also got some questions about the Wi-Fi nugget and some other related things. So we're going to be covering those today, as well as some other great questions. So if you're in the chat today, then it's great to see you. And I also have to ask, who sent me the sweater? Whoever sent me the sweater, please tell me.
Looks magnificent.
Yeah,
you should stand up so they can see the full thing.
Yeah, sorry. So
full justice.
There we go. I got this sweater in the mail that I did not order.
Nice.
And
whoever sent it, I want one too.
Yeah, so I appreciate that it was just a sweater. I gotta say that. But either way, thank you to everyone for being here, and of course, thank you to whoever sent me this anonymous sweater, potentially as some sort of like power move. I'm not really sure, but either way, I'm wearing it and I appreciate it.
Nice.
And it smells nice too. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and take one of the questions I think from the YouTube channel. Alex,
Cool.
if you got one.
First, do you want to answer this question? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. We just got back from a trip to Seattle. We had a lot of fun while we were there. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go to any Seattle hackerspaces because, frankly, a lot of stuff was shut down during the holiday season. But we did get to go to a cat cafe.
That was pretty cool.
That was really cool.
There were a lot of cats.
Yeah, Seattle Metropolitan. We wanted to go to Cafe Nico as well, but that one was booked. So all in all, it was a super good trip. If you've never been to a cat cafe, they're great. And also, to answer a question that somebody sent us, cats or dogs, Alex?
Cats, by far.
Yeah, cats.
Yeah, cats.
All right.
They're great.
Get that. I mean, that's not to say I grew up with several large dogs who are excellent. I really like larger dogs. My family had a gray wolf for some reason. We just had that perfectly natural, and that was great to have. I really liked her. But most Chihuahuas are not wolves, and I'm more fond of cats. All right, and then also we have a good question. How come you have German stickers on your laptop? And a lot of the time people either assume I speak German, am German, or whatever. Also, every time I get a new computer, I completely wrap it in stickers, usually based on whatever it is I'm doing at that time. And this computer, I believe the last time it was fixed was around the time I was going to the C3 conference. So I had a lot of my European friends contributing a lot of sassy stickers in different languages, and these were some of my absolute favorites. So this computer is heavily C3 because I really liked that conference in Germany, and I had a really good time in Leipzig, and a lot of the stickers I got are extremely funny. But I think the biggest one that just says, with Linux, this would not have happened.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I think that's great.
Nice.
Yeah, so stickers are great, and it's good to show people where you've been, and it's also good to show people, where your friends are from. So. All right, let's take the question.
Cool. This one was on your recent video parsing Wi-Fi packets with monitor mode in CircuitPython, which features one of the new Nugget variants that we made.
Oh my gosh, look at that face. Can we switch over to Alex's screen, please?
Screen.
So I decided to make...
Awful frame to have pulled up.
No, that's the perfect frame. I'm so glad you did that. So I decided to make a version of the DAuth detector. Do you guys know what the DAuth detector is? So the DAuth detector is this really awesome project that uses the ESP8266 microcontroller, really tiny, really cheap, to be able to detect when there's a Wi-Fi attack underway. And in fact, I think our friend Satonic also just came out with a version of the DAuth detector that's the opposite, whereas ours is like a platform that can do lots of stuff. This is just one of the projects projects it can run, whereas the one that just came out is a dedicated DDoS detector. It's literally just like an ESP with a LED stuck on it that just looks for one thing. Pretty cool as a single purpose board, but this one can really do a lot more, including use its screen to, express itself. And as you can see,
it's expressing itself too much.
Yeah, this nugget is shocked, confused, and a little intrigued, maybe. But I just decided I wanted to make it so the user can customize and put their own face on the Wi-Fi nugget whenever it's doing something. Like in this case, detecting a Wi-Fi attack, and is very stressed out and maybe even a little hot and bothered by that. And normally, if you go to a different frame, you can see that during normal not attack times, then the Wi-Fi nugget has a much more peaceful face. Dorky even a little bit.
I'm a little bit scared. Let's see. Okay.
No, it's a really good face. I made this.
All right.
Actually, our good friend Christian actually started drawing nugget faces, and this is one of my favorite ones that we have managed to pull up.
Is it near the end of?
I think it should be towards the beginning.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Okay, this is wonderful.
So this is how the nugget looks when times are peaceful, when everything's fine. It's just got this goofy little nugget face on.
Otherwise, it goes into boingo mode.
Yeah. Otherwise, it
Do you
goes
want to
into.
explain yourself?
So I decided to make as soon as I saw the face, as soon as I found this face on the internet, which I did find we call it the boingo face on the internet. I realized that I needed a name for it, and I decided to call it the boingo face. So as soon as this nugget sees a Wi-Fi attack, it gets the boingo face. And in the code, I have a lot of variables referring to this, which I thought was very funny when I forgot to sanitize them and publish them to GitHub. So if you follow this, guide, you'll have to go through my variables, which
very dirty code.
Yeah, very dirty code. Yes.
Yeah.
So all right. So what was the question about this?
Oh. I was distracted a little bit. Oh, will it support M5 stick C with ESP32 Pico? I believe they're using the version of the the original ESP32 that has Bluetooth, so I don't think it supports monitor mode at the moment.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is specifically for the ESP32S2. And what is important about that is the ESP32S2 is a microcontroller that allows you to plug it into your computer and have it mount as a flash drive, meaning you drag and drop Adafruit CircuitPython onto the board like a USB drive in order to install it. It's super easy, but you cannot do that with the original version of the ESP32. You need the newer version in order to be able to enable that functionality, and you also need the newer version in order to do the new CircuitPython monitor mode. Now, it's also worth noting that CircuitPython and MicroPython are a little different, and I don't know that this feature is implemented in MicroPython, although I kind of hope it is, and now I want to investigate. So if you want to take advantage of this, you need CircuitPython, and this is specifically for the CircuitPython version of the ESP32S2. So, getting into a little bit of specifics with microcontrollers, but it is a really good question. And there's a lot of kind of brand confusion around the ESP32 versus the new ESP32S2 versus the new ESP32S3 versus the new, what is the other one?
There's God, I think we even mixed it up. I think it's the C3, and they might also have an S3.
Yeah.
Then they also have different form factors. So the ESP32 Pico is a little bit different than their other ESP32 form factor.
That's what I'm saying. It gets kind of confusing
really
with this, but in general, we have been focusing very much on the ESP32S2, and that's why we're talking a lot about its capabilities, because Adafruit has also embraced this board as a really, really good board for beginners and good for features.
Yeah.
So we have tons of other makers who have decided that this is the board that they want to be working with, just because of all the different features it incorporates and all the different things that it can do. And that's really why we focus so much on
now it's buffering.
try pressing play. There you go.
There it is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so as you can see here, the ESP32S2, we have it in a form factor that's called an S2 Mini. And the reason why we're able to do so much cool stuff with it is it's the exact same pinout as the D1 Mini, which I'm holding one in my hand right now. So it's really cool that Espressif has allowed this sort of easy upgrade, because obviously we're taking advantage of it by just dropping in an ESP32S2 based board into this design and being able to totally upgrade it and allow for CircuitPython. So again, if you want to get started with using Python on a microcontroller to parse Wi-Fi packets, you can absolutely do that with a couple caveats, that being that they're mostly management frames, so you can't see encrypted frames, you can't grab handshakes yet, and well, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So, and no 5 gigahertz, unfortunately. Oh, and I see that Zam has also done the same thing that I did and bought 100 S2 mini boards. I have to compliment you, sir. Between the two of us, we now own probably most of the stock in the United States. But these boards are super cool, and I have been buying a bunch of them myself in order to prepare ourselves to make many more of these as we continue to roll out features and as Adafruit developers continue to add new stuff to CircuitPython, which directly benefits our project too. So it's also been really cool to get some recognition from Adafruit. They shouted us out multiple times, and they also added us to the list of official CircuitPython hardware.
Hey.
So that's a really cool development that happened over the Thanksgiving holiday. Our creation, me and Alex, we made this. It was our child. Our S2 Nugget has officially been added to the list of CircuitPython hardware. So if you're looking down the official Adafruit list of boards that support CircuitPython, ours is now listed. That's
Super
really cool.
stoked about that. I hope we get to like work with them and
Me too.
develop some cool projects.
Yeah,
Really
Adafruit,
cool.
if you're listening, we think you're really cool and we want to work with you someday. Maybe today. Call us. But anyway, it's been really cool to have them reach out to us and kind of recognize what we're doing because we think their projects are super cool. And that's why I've been doing so many videos on CircuitPython lately because it's such a cool project. And I think anybody who plays around with Python will really enjoy it. And also, Zam, thank you for confessing for about the sweater. Not only do I really like it, I'm a lot more relieved that it's you and not, a stalker.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Let's pull up another question.
All right. I'm scrolling through the same video. Okay, this one just says gimme. That's pretty straightforward.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Go. You can always go
All
buy
right.
one at hackhat.com, HAKCAT.com.
You can also build your own since it's open source.
Yeah, you can. Oh, and then, so we did have some people who were complaining about this project saying that it was a bit expensive. And just a reminder, this is an open source project, meaning the board files are public. You can go make them yourself if you really want to. All the instructions to make it are public. The code is public. This is an open source project. So, if you don't want to support us making more of these, then you can always just go make your own. We make all the resources available, but I think you'll find it's kind of hard. And that's why it's nice to, be able to pay for all the stuff we need to make them. But it's been a lot of fun, and we've been developing these as, again, educational tools for people to learn about cybersecurity and hacking. And I think you'll probably see them pop up at conferences in the future because we've got some really cool plans with that as well. So thank you for the question. So one question was, did you guys have a chance to mess with the Pineapple Mark 7 since the last stream? So we just got a package from Hack5, which has been delayed for literally like 4 months, maybe like 3.5 months, where I ordered like $800 worth of stuff and I've just been waiting for it to get here. And the Pineapple is in there. It's amongst everything else. So I'm really excited to get a chance to check this out because I haven't messed with the Pineapple in quite some time. But I'm also interested in testing something that one of our viewers was showing me. So apparently there's a way to hack the Wi-Fi Pineapple.
How so? Like hardware-wise?
No, not
Or,
hardware-wise.
Like hack the
wirelessly.
Pineapple itself?
Yeah, hack the Pineapple itself. Not to hack with the Pineapple.
So like
but
reverse hack the hacker with the
yeah,
Pineapple.
so
I see.
our viewer, Colonel Panic, was just showing me on Twitter, actually showed me a while ago, but I was just reviewing it on Twitter, that there's a way to actually connect to the access point that the Pineapple is creating and then access the web management interface.
Oh shoot, that's cool.
Yeah, so like there's supposed to be 2 levels of protection here. First is a pre-shared key that you're supposed to have to know in order to connect, which this completely bypasses. And then in the second phase of the attack, they actually go ahead and just fuzz the password and found out that you can have any username entered provided that it's paired with the correct password, which is
That's ironic.
It is ironic.
Wait, so
right?
the web port? I've never used the Pineapple. The web portal, it's just Wi-Fi based, right?
Yep.
You log in. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
really interesting. Really interesting and really cool.
What if we used a Pineapple to hack the Pineapple?
Well, that would be a fun module, like a counterintelligence Pineapple.
Yeah.
Alright.
There's also like I think 3 radios or something built into it, so you could have like both of them hacking each other at the same time.
Whoa.
That'd be crazy.
That would be crazy. Well, we do have the equipment now, and I'm kind of splitting my time between that and the Hack RF1. Is that
Oh, yeah,
is that
that's
what we
really
got?
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have some like radio hacking stuff that we want to do, and then we also have some Pineapple stuff that we want to do. But of course, we also got the OMG cable, and that is really cool and interesting. I've barely got a chance to play with it yet. And the OMG cable, which Alex, you know what the OMG cable is, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain it to the viewers?
So it's like it just looks like a regular cable. It's completely inconspicuous. Just disguises itself as like maybe a phone charger or something to charge your laptop with. But it has like a chip embedded in it. I think it also has like a Wi-Fi access point so you can control it. but you can use it for things like exfiltrating files from whatever it's connected to, being able to type in keystrokes and stuff like that, and also remotely control it, which is super cool.
Yeah, the remote control is really what's awesome. And the fact that it's so small and it does all this stuff is really cool. It comes with like a programmer, so I'm guessing you have to use like the special programming thing in order to program it. But again, I've barely started playing with all this awesome Hack5 stuff, so we're going to have a lot of episodes in the future going over how some of this stuff works and really what kind of threat this really represents, and how you might use it. So going to be really cool both from the defensive side of things and the offensive side of things. So if you have any suggestions of what you want to see first, please let us know, because we do read them. And if we have people really pushing for one versus the other, then we will definitely go with that. So if you guys want to see the pineapple, we'll do it. We'll do it.
Yeah.
Although honestly, the OMG cable's so cool. I kind of want to play with that first. But if somebody says they want to see the OMG cable, we'll do that first. Maybe say that now.
Nice.
But yeah, I really want to play with that, because it was, I don't think it was the OMG cable. I think it was the HackRF one that was backordered for such a long time. But now that it's here, I've just been anticipating it for so long.
Sounds super cool. I've been wanting to do more radio stuff like SDR or screwing around with the HackRF.
Yeah, our garage door opener doesn't work so good. So if we could use that like expensive radio module to get that to work a little bit more reliably, that would be pretty cool.
That'd be nice.
So, all right, here's an interesting and perhaps slightly philosophical question. It's been 8 years since the original Pwn phone came out, and it seems NetHunter isn't very well made. What do you think is holding back a really good mobile hacking platform from existing?
I think the barrier to entry to just like setting that up is too high when you have like microcomputers like the Raspberry Pi that you could just throw together a hacking rig with in like a couple minutes. And also you can like strap on your own hardware and like completely rice it out and stuff like that, add on like adapters. And a phone is just not that great of a platform for hacking in general, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, so my answer would be a little bit different. I think that there are some hurdles that come from like creating like a miniaturized thing where like you're outsourcing so much of it to other companies, because like as an in-house operation, it would be really difficult like to make something that is that small and that compact. Even though the technology is proven, it's still very much done in like factories and places that have the capabilities of making those very small things. And constructing something that's completely open source, which a lot of hackers or people are going to want, is also pretty difficult once you try to make it into like a form factor that's more complicated than like a Raspberry Pi. So I would say like both the availability of like workarounds like the Raspberry Pi that are good enough for most people, plus maybe the lack of like there's no app store for hacking at the moment. Kali Linux is as close as it gets. Like, the repositories there are a pretty curated list of all the different things you can get into with hacking, and it's a good place to start. But because there's no like app store for hacking, like there's not a lot of incentive to create a platform which doesn't then maybe support most of these tools that people expect. So I would say like lack of a good input solution is one thing that I think like might be kind of influencing that. Like if you're doing a lot of terminal stuff or if a lot of hacking tools are command line, then it's kind of not super fun to do it on a mobile phone where the screen is tiny and taken up halfway by the keyboard, making it even tinier. So the user experience has been pretty not great on some of these devices, just because like there's no good inputs and like there's some other issues I see with just usability. But I will admit that I definitely do want something that I could set up a bit more custom and actually use for some of my hacking projects that isn't, this.
Right. These are getting pretty popular again, though. I guess they've always been around.
Switch over to your screen.
Oh, yeah, if we could switch over.
Yeah.
Ooh,
cool.
I guess I'll blood that out.
That's
but
fine.
like PDAs are, at least I've seen, have started to make a comeback, like really small handheld devices in the same form factor as laptops. I've seen these being like used and deployed by like pen testers and stuff like that. They seem pretty cool, and they have like all the hardware built in. You can add stuff over USB, things like that. They're pretty interesting.
Yeah. So if you make this device, maybe send one to us, and we'll try it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, using a cell phone for hacking, most of the time, I did have like a rooted Android phone that I used to use for doing some stuff, and there were some applications that actually did work on it quite well when I needed to demonstrate something. But you never know, like what's running beyond those apps. Like it's harder to audit them. Like it's just. It becomes a little bit more of a problem to make sure you're not running malicious code on something that you've rooted if you're using a mobile phone or something that's installing an app or something like that from an APK file. There's a lot of different reasons. I feel like none of the ones we've given and you are especially good. But there are a lot of reasons I feel like it's kind of been held back because it definitely does not exist yet, and I haven't seen something that I think is really killer that like addresses the need for like Linux people who want to do hacking stuff, especially like wireless hacking stuff or cellular hacking stuff or any of the things that you could do with the phone if it was really yours. But because it's locked down, there's a lot of stuff you can't do, and that's kind of unfortunate. I think like Wiggle Wi-Fi is one of my favorite projects you could run on just a regular Android phone that's not rooted or anything, because it gives you the ability to use tons of data for interesting projects. But outside of that, I'm kind of disappointed with all the hacking stuff you can do when a phone is not, rooted or kind of made more vulnerable.
Yeah, there's like that, and also like Fing, which you can use to like see what's connected to the network.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like both of those a lot. All right, let's pick another question.
Cool. What are the wireless Linux commands for connecting to Wi-Fi? Can Raspberry Pi use the alpha Wi-Fi adapter? For the first one, I think you have to edit a config file. It's like wpa_supplicant.conf.
Yeah.
I forget what you have to do after that to get it like properly set up, but I've used that to connect to Wi-Fi when this computer corrupted during one of our live workshops, which was a complete pain. I also had to install like all the dependencies and stuff completely from command line.
It's like the same file you have to insert into the Raspberry Pi in order to get it to like power up and connect to your Wi-Fi network and offer an SSH interface if you don't want to Ethernet into it. So the process was pretty straightforward. It's just you edit the the WPA supplicant file, and then that, once it has the correct credentials, should allow you to successfully connect to Wi-Fi automatically as soon as the device boots up, which is really useful. Again, if you want to make sure that your device is connected and not just sitting there waiting for you to try to connect to it.
Sad. Can Raspberry Pi use the alpha Wi-Fi adapter?
Yeah, so the Raspberry Pi works best when another wireless network adapter is plugged into it. The onboard wireless network adapter is fine, but I wouldn't really stress it out if you don't need to. And alpha wireless network adapters will work perfectly fine on it. I used to have a Raspberry Pi connected to like an incredibly long USB cable that went straight up on a pole outside my apartment, and then use that to just gather Wi-Fi signals for like a week. And I found some really interesting stuff. And it was a alpha wireless network adapter that I did that with, and it worked super great. I just let it run for multiple days at a time, and the uptime was actually really impressive. And I managed to collect a lot of really interesting signals.
Nice. Yeah, Alpha and like Panda are pretty good. And I think those are the top two we'd recommend if you're gonna want to use a Wi-Fi adapter with Raspberry Pi or Linux.
Oh, so here's another perspective on the question that I feel like we didn't maybe answer the best. It's a carrier/manufacturer's specific proprietary tech/licensing. If you want a good mobile, then you have to get a vanilla Android, compile a custom Linux kernel and Flash, and then VoIP over data. It's like if you want to provide a good experience to people, then you basically are competing with like existing systems like Android, iOS. And like, if you just want to make a hacking platform and like you didn't sign up to like compete with like the big players just to make sure you can offer the same kind of functionality people expect, then it can be really difficult to like nail the things that people expect a phone or a tablet to do, plus offer all these other features, because otherwise you're kind of starting from scratch. Then once you're involved with like Android or something like that, then you're limited to certain types of technologies you can use. And it's just a lot of compromises that manufacturers have to make in order to get to something that people are incredibly fussy about. So
yeah.
Cool. All right, let's pick another question. Do you have any from the YouTube channel?
Yeah, this one's from my video that I put out, I think 2 weeks ago, practice Wi-Fi hacking on this $3 ESP8266 router.
Yes. So let's switch over to Alex's screen. And this video is specifically about being able to practice Wi-Fi hacking and not get in trouble by attacking like something that's not yours. So this is a fully functional NAT network extender?
Yeah, NAT, what is it? Network something, I forget the abbreviation, but yeah, it basically allows you to extend like your current Wi-Fi over to like other devices that would be connected to it.
Network address translation
and port. Wait, network address and port translation.
Yeah, there you go. So that's a lot of work for this little microcontroller to do, and it's really, really cool that you can set this target up, have it actually pull down Wi-Fi, so you can connect to this little target, and it will actually let you, load web pages. I rickrolled myself on it just to be sure, and it really does work as a network extender. Now, for little IoT projects, this could just be something for you to just add some range to your Wi-Fi, which is pretty cool. But if you're a hacker who doesn't want to get in trouble for hacking into their parents' or neighbors' or school's Wi-Fi, this is a perfect project to get started without having to put up much money.
Yeah. So one of the questions I got on this was, I have a question for you. When creating a wiretapping operation on one of the Wi-Fi points, AeroDump NG, can the owner of the Wi-Fi? Okay, I'm starting to regret taking this question. To feel it, my talk is not about the dismissal kick or the denial of service ban.
Okay.
I feel like we're gonna need more time to parse through this question. and
Yeah.
actually
All right.
answer it.
Let's read it one more time
All right.
together.
When creating a
Wi-Fi-
wiretap.
Okay. When creating a wiretapping operation on one of the Wi-Fi points aired up NG, can the owner of the Wi-Fi to feel it?
Okay,
My
wait.
talk is not about the dismissal kick or the denial of service ban. So he's not talking about deauthentication attacks. They're asking if
I think
we.
he's seeing if like the owner of the Wi-Fi can detect one of these attacks.
Yeah, so like wiretapping in this case, I feel like is a bad translation of man in the middle or eavesdropping. Eavesdropping, I feel like, is what we're talking about. So if we're doing Wi-Fi eavesdropping, what did you show in this? Did you get the Wi-Fi password?
I showed how to capture the four-way handshake, which is
Great.
essentially the encrypted version of the Wi-Fi password.
Right, and then what did you do after that?
That was pretty much it. I'm gonna do like a follow-up.
Don't lie to me. What provoked this individual? You did something to provoke them. Like so after getting the Wi-Fi password, what
after
comes
this,
up?
I hacked into his wife's Facebook.
Stop.
Okay.
Like, no, what in this video?
What did I do to like aggravate this man specifically?
No. What did you do after getting the Wi-Fi password in this video, or was that literally all?
No, that was literally it. I showed them how to capture traffic.
That is what I meant. Okay, so
yes.
stop. Okay, so
Right.
what this man is asking is when we're able to capture traffic, whether we can see into that traffic after we get a handshake, and if the person who is on the network can detect us. So at this point, I'm going to say no, they can't.
Right.
Because if you are just eavesdropping and you haven't done, this person's saying that they're not talking about the deauthenticate, like kicking somebody off the network. They're just asking, while we are watching these packets come in, can the person who's operating that network or any devices on the network tell that we are listening in?
No. It's basically just listening into really noisy Wi-Fi conversations that are happening. And it's a pretty passive process. You can't
That's
tell.
it. Yeah, so this is a passive attack. All the way up until we're sending deauthentication packets to kick someone off a network, this is passive. So, for example, if you wanted to intercept a bunch of handshakes, you could maybe take an alpha adapter, plug it into a Raspberry Pi, and put it up on a giant pole and let it run for several weeks. And would any of the people who you were basically listening to their Wi-Fi traffic, would any of them know that? No, they wouldn't, because you are just listening. You're not putting out anything at all. Now, if you get the Wi-Fi password like Alex showed, then that means you can also put that into Wireshark and decode wireless traffic. And at that point, you're still just passively listening. So if this scenario were to happen where you're just listening, somebody connects to a Wi-Fi network, you crack that password, but you didn't kick them off, they just connected to the Wi-Fi because they came home or whatever, then you would be able to continue to listen in on all the things happening on that Wi-Fi network and decrypt all the stuff that had been encrypted by the Wi-Fi password in real time from that point on. But they would never be able to tell that you were doing that because you have not joined the Wi-Fi network. You've not, authenticated the network and become a part of it. You are just decrypting all the traffic that is coming in live, which is really cool. And that's the difference between like an active and a passive attack. More active attack would be maybe joining the network as another device and starting to scan and do Nmap scans. That would definitely let someone potentially know you were on their network. You could figure that out with a thing scan on your Android or iOS phone. However, if you are just sitting there listening, no, you cannot be detected because you're not emitting any packets. So there's nothing to detect, which I think is very cool and very sneaky.
Right.
An altogether very confusing question.
Yeah. Cool. Do you want to take a question from a previous Q&A?
Sure.
Cool.
Wait, like that we've already answered?
No.
Okay, then no. I mean, then yes.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this one's from Matthew Pattinson. Please make a video on setting up Apache 2. So I actually did a video a while ago on using the Raspberry Pi to set up like a DIY web server type thing. I'll pull up the link and drop that in the chat. But I give a basic overview of like how to set up Nginx, which is kind of similar, but Apache is, I find it to be a little harder to work with, but I could cover that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that, so you're going to have to talk to him. All right, so we have a really good question in the chat, and that is, how nervous do you guys get when using tools from GitHub on your personal laptops? I'm always second guessing myself when I random git clone a repo since I've bumped into backdoors before. Well, first, what did that look like? How did you figure it out? Like, I'm actually super curious. I, in general, am moderately nervous all the time. So like when cloning a new GitHub repository, like, I will usually go through a couple checks just to get a feel for whether or not it's sketchy and I need to be a little bit more careful with it. If I look and I see that people I know are either cloning the project or involved in it or have started or have mentioned it elsewhere, then I feel a lot better about the project than, if it's some random thing that like maybe some people are starring, but I've never heard of any of these accounts. I don't know any of these people. I also like to see if a project is frequently updated, if it's got a good like README page and it looks like it has some accountability with the community. Like, a lot of people are following it, a lot of people are interacting, they're closing bugs, like all that stuff looks good to me. It's the, random unmaintained project that have had like one commit ever, that claim to do something really cool, but like, it seems like maybe there's either not enough code there to do that, or like, it just doesn't seem quite right. Those are the ones that I'm really, really like careful about, and I feel very, very paranoid. But Alex, I have more to this, but Alex, what do you say to this?
I usually I've worked with a lot of like more high profile tools, like ones that are trusted and have like built rapport with like the community and stuff like that. It's like those I would generally trust. But if it's like sketchy code that could like download a stager like that one Python one you built, I usually like to look a bit into the source code before I run or compile anything on my computer.
Yeah, so I'm trying to find this result. I wrote a MicroPython stager. Of course, I don't have it up yet, so please don't switch over. But the point of this was to prove that you could use MicroPython to do something that people didn't expect.
Like from a microcontroller?
Yeah, so...
Oh, cool.
I even wrote a nullbyte article about this. I used to write nullbyte articles. That's so funny. And the website's still up. Wow. So if we switch over to my screen, this is something that I did as an experiment, just to show people, like, hey, you can do this. Why does my screen look sick? Oh, it's because I have Flux on. Okay, sorry, but I thought my screen had jaundice. Get that out of here. All right, so how can you have a single line that actually executes infinite numbers of lines? So I got into this competition in my computer science club where I was obsessed with one-upping all the C++ nerds by abusing Python to do extremely short code to do something that seemed impossible. So like, there's a little bit of snobbery in computer science where like the people who write, compiled languages that are all hard and difficult and make them feel bad and require a lot of math, they really feel like they're better, than like people who write Python or like other like messier languages where you can be sloppy and do things that barely make sense. Which I enjoy doing. So whenever we would go to these computer science meetings, there were always these challenges we would have to solve where like the challenge was like whoever can write the shortest code to do this wins. So my friend and I, my friend Brandon would use bash scripting to just do absolutely stupid things that in like one line would just take care of everything. And I in turn would use Python to cheat as much as possible and be able to do things that like people didn't anticipate. So my favorite trick was using a single line to pull down a base 64 script from GitHub, decode it, and then run every single line of that Python script. So this means that you could write as long of a script as really as you want, as the microcontroller can hold, and then just write a one-line stager that will go to the internet, download that, and then run it on the microcontroller. And because this microcontroller has Wi-Fi enabled, it's really easy to connect to Wi-Fi, and as soon as it has a data connection, it can run this stager and start doing whatever I want. So I loved making kind of obfuscated code for the competitions that look like maybe I was like unpacking something, but really it's just downloading something from GitHub and like running it line by line, which very funny. But that's the kind of thing that somebody could include in their project. A single line is enough to download, unpack, and then run potentially malicious code or create a backdoor on your system. So the fact that I've experimented with this from just a purely like, just wanted to see if it's possible standpoint, I had, for example, when you ran this code, if you were to go ahead, load it up and run it, it would automatically ping a tracking link while it downloaded the script and let me know that someone had run it. And a lot of people ran this code. I thought I was pretty like explicit about I was like, kind of funny about it. I did the video on it, whatever. But like a lot of people ran this code. And like at any moment, I could have changed what was on the GitHub repository and that code would have dragged down some different piece of code and I could have changed it to a backdoor. I could have done something malicious. So it was kind of startling to me that I showed people a demonstration of a backdoor running, and they immediately took it and ran it.
Nice.
Because again, this can just execute arbitrary anything. And this is true with Python as well. Like creating a stager is really easy, but doing it on a microcontroller was particularly fun and worrisome. for a lot of people. So yeah, I'm moderately nervous about having something like this embedded in a popular project because frankly, it does happen. And like, I'm not going to go through and code review everything because I barely understand Python, let alone like, going through and figuring out what someone else is trying to do with it. So it is a struggle, but generally, if you look at the community signs that a project is healthy, that people are contributing to it, and that others that are like, good members of the community who like check their stuff, like if they are using it or like reviewing it or otherwise working with it, then it's a better indication that it's probably safer to run with than just some random piece of code that you find during a Google search about some specific CVE or something like that. But really good question, because a lot of people will just go ham like, I'll run anything. And that is how they get ransomwared. Or, North Korea ends up with all your fancy 0 days that you've collected. So be careful.
It's really creative. I was thinking like also with the new ability to do HID attacks on like the S2 nugget. I presume you did that with D1 Mini?
Yeah.
So, you could even like download code to inject like stuff into someone's computer.
So smart. You're genius. So what Alex is saying is for our new S2 nugget, it has it can pretend to be a keyboard. So all that needs to do really is just draw down some sort of payload, and then it could type them all out over the keyboard, and it would be able to attack the computer it was plugged into as well. And you would never know that it was going to do that because it wouldn't pull down the code until the last second.
Yeah, the
Pretty
coolest
cool.
thing is like a stager like this completely just bypasses like detection since it's like completely obfuscated and looks like a normal piece of software that's being downloaded, like just base 64 text.
Yeah, and the actual code here involved is really not that much. So if you want to check out this article, I thought it was really fun and cool. Maybe I'll make another one about building a hardware backdoor or something like that. Like, because I really think a lot of IoT devices could very well have exploitable things like this in them, where it's going to download the Python command I used in this is exec, which is a very dangerous Python command. Do you know what exec does?
I think it just executes a command through bash or something. I forget.
Well, not through bash, because it's Python. So it's gonna.
Does it just run whatever is contained within?
As code, yes.
Yeah.
So if you are lazy and dangerous with Python, you can just exec like a string that comes from the internet. And I feel like a lot of different IoT devices actually kind of just do this. So as a matter of attack, like if someone were to swap out the commands that are coming in so that it starts running malicious stuff, there's a lot of different things you could do that are malicious in this kind of setup. So. That is definitely a possibility. It happens a lot, and it's a really good question as to how people decide what to run and what not to run on their computers, microcontrollers, and other things while testing security tools. Okay, that was a really good question.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the ones we're getting tonight. Got another one?
This one was from last week's Q&A. What is a zero-click attack?
Alex, what is a zero-click attack?
It's an attack that requires no interaction in order to be run. So you could basically just view something like an email, a website, or something like that, and it could have sneaky code embedded in it that doesn't require you to interact with it in any way, and could just exploit your device like that. Because we see things like phishing attacks that require you to like click on a link, input credentials, type stuff in, but this requires absolutely no form of interaction.
Yeah, so my answer to what is a zero-click attack is it's expensive. These are the kinds of exploits that companies who are sketchy and market basically cyber weapons to whoever will pay them. These are the ones that they hold back and charge a lot of money for because they get patched quickly, but they allow you to basically attack someone and it requires no interaction from the person in order to get them to be infected. So the less expensive ones might be like 1 or 2 click attacks where they have to like open a web page and do something else. Like needing to open a link is considered a 1-click attack. It means that if you don't click on the link, then you're okay. But there are still these exploits that are 0-click, and those are the ones that are truly dangerous because there is no way to really protect against them, other than just monitoring your stuff and trying to make sure that once your device is infected, you can detect that, because the methods of getting in are becoming increasingly sophisticated. And if you got the money, then you can get access to some of these problems before they're officially fixed by the vendor, which means there's really not anyone who can stop this sort of thing, which is upsetting. All right, so here's a pretty straightforward question. If I connect to Wi-Fi using a VPN, does it prevent a hacker from listening to my web browsing?
You can still listen into what's happening, but it's encrypted. And presuming they find a way to break that encryption, I think you can still see the data.
Well, I mean, like breaking...
It obfuscates it a lot, though.
It encrypts it.
Yeah.
Yeah, encryption and obfuscation are different. Just because like obfuscation is obviously like, you know, you're just hiding something, whereas
Right.
encryption is like math is preventing you from
Oh, yeah.
seeing it because it looks random. So for the average person, all right, my question would be like, which hacker? The hacker who has set up the VPN service and is selling all of your data to like some third party, or the hacker who's sitting in the coffee shop with you trying to see if you're like signing in with credit card details or whatever, or trying to phish you. Those are two different threats. So it depends on which one you're concerned about. If you are worried about, you know, the person in the next apartment over breaking into your Wi-Fi and, you know, like watching what you do, or somebody in the coffee shop like monitoring you putting credit card information in or something, then yeah, a VPN will prevent somebody on a local network from being able to see what your traffic looks like. However, if you are worried on a bigger picture, then, you know, it could instead be somebody on the other end of the VPN that is your biggest problem. So I wouldn't get too worried. I wouldn't get too worried about the VPN thing at the moment, like if you're mostly worried about local protection, because really that's what it was designed for, to prevent people from messing with your local network connection, phishing you, creating web pages that aren't really there when you try to go to a different one with DNS spoofing. A lot of that stuff does get shut down as soon as you use a VPN. But a lot of commercial VPNs do have problems, and the biggest one is you just don't know who runs them or what they're doing with the data, and there's very little way to find out. So, you know, it is a mixed bag with VPNs as to where you're shifting your threat to. If you're less concerned about the VPN company, then feel free to use one and then shift the kind of risk there. But it all depends on your threat model and who you are most specifically worried about. So which hacker, I guess, is still my response.
It's a good response.
Let's say if I use NordVPN, I wouldn't use that one of all the different ones.
Wasn't that the one where?
Yeah,
the
we're not gonna
CEOs
say we're not gonna say anything bad about that one,
Cool.
like specifically, but maybe pick another one besides that one. You know, I mean, I use Mulvad. I like Mulvad. They're cool. You know, whatever. It's up to you. It's just like there have been a couple ones like that one that have been affiliated with people from you know, like spyware and other sorts of like spy hacking organizations that people don't like. So
Sketchy.
just but again, is that going to prevent the localized hacker from getting into your stuff? Yeah. And if you are not worried about somebody on the other end intercepting it, then, you know, maybe that's not a risk you're particularly worried about. But it is important to start telling people about the risk of VPNs. There's been a lot of consolidation in the VPN industry where, you know, people who have a good market for this data are coming in and buying up VPNs that have a good amount of customers because it increases their value. So just be aware that VPNs are a business, you know, and there's a lot of businesses out there that are doing sketchy things, just like any other type of business model. So you really need to be careful about who you go with on this and be aware of who owns the VPN company you're working with. So the hacker I am most concerned about is named Kody. Well, thank you very
comment.
much. Then you probably should use a VPN.
Cool. I'll take another question from last week's chat. How can I do graphical SSH from Pi 4 Kali Linux to an unrooted mobile phone? I don't have a computer. I flashed Pi 4 Kali Linux image from mobile itself. Can you make a video?
Is it Chrome that has built-in SSH? Or is it Firefox?
I'm pretty sure it's Chrome.
Okay, so one thing that we did was we had a workshop where we had to have everybody use SSH, and it was like so terrible because like we couldn't install. We were using school computers, so we couldn't install like a single thing onto any of them, or the IT administrators would freak out.
Oh, it was almost definitely Chrome then.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that it was either Firefox or Chrome. Like we were able to just like use either an extension, like a browser extension, or just directly like log in. And we got a graphical interface. It was super cool, super easy, and we managed to get it working. So if you've got access to that, then the built-in like SSH feature is really nice. If that is something you're trying to do. Do you have another idea?
You could also do like VNC. I think Kali comes with VNC installed, or Raspbian, one of the two. But you can install like a VNC server that allows you to connect to like the actual graphical user interface, and you can like move around and click the mouse and stuff like that, even from your phone using like a VNC app, which is really cool. And it provides like another level of interaction besides just typing in a terminal on your phone.
Cool. So. Kind of a comment. I'm willing to bet all of my Bitcoin that all Western, American and Western VPN companies are either knowingly giving access to intelligence agencies in America or have gotten hacked by them already. Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, Bitcoin's not real, but like I would not. Yeah, I would also bet my imaginary Bitcoin money on this probably having happened because, like, frankly, Michael's slapping his head. It's not real, Michael. It's not real money.
Nothing is real.
It's not
It's
real.
all illusory.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, but yeah, I would imagine that people who want to be sneaky use VPNs because guess what? It hides from your internet service provider what you've been doing. And if someone wants to go and find out what you've been doing, that's the first person they're going to ask. So it does provide like a surface layer of protection to people who are trying to be sneaky. But things evolve. And now that it's well known that a VPN is what you use if you're trying to be sneaky, these VPN companies are huge targets for intelligence agencies or anybody who wants to know who's being sneaky. So yeah, you absolutely can believe that intelligence agencies have turned their attention towards these VPNs in an effort to disrupt criminals and other people that are using this for sketchy or nefarious things. So if you're just a privacy-focused person who happens to want to keep your stuff private, then you can definitely find yourself probably working with a VPN that might have been compromised or possibly is just making a ton of money on the side from one of these intelligence agencies. Definitely something to think about, and it's not outside the realm of possibility at all. In fact, I think it's probably more likely than not. So pick your VPNs carefully and also pick what you do on VPNs carefully,
Looking for another question, but this one seems interesting. From Troll Whisperer, I'm modding a pair of 433/915 megahertz LoRa modules to warfly an industrial plant on my drone using a Pi Zero for signal analysis and code injection.
Hey, wait, a Pi Zero or Pi Zero W?
It just says Pi Zero.
Okay.
I presume Pi Zero W though. They're talking about SSH, but that seems pretty interesting. Doing like just general signals intelligence stuff on.
Yeah. Yeah, I've used the Pi Zero W as a signals intelligence platform before. I have to say, it's kind of slow. I've crashed Kismet on it several times. So it is capable of doing what you say, yet it hates it sometimes. But then again, if you're not processing a ton of signals, like, if it's not going to be absolutely overwhelmed in like a huge metropolitan area where it's just getting an absolute ton of signals, it should be fine. And it's also very small and light, so I too have launched that thing and tried to do things with it. In fact, I believe that's the first single board computer I ever launched in the air and used it to do hacking stuff. So yeah, it definitely works for war driving. The LoRa is a really interesting add-on. I'm curious if you're using the LoRa to like search for LoRa devices or like stuff like that, or if you're using it to communicate, which would be really cool, actually, if you're able to communicate from long ranges and like kick it on, kick it off, start it recording, like maybe run different tools. That would be really awesome.
They probably use like different protocols for communication, I would assume, inside like an industrial plant that they might be trying to sniff for.
SSH over an LTE hat. Okay, so you have LTE connected. That gives you a data line. That's actually really cool because a lot of the stuff that we've been doing with war flying is like we just take like a commercial drone and just strap a module onto it like it's a war, like like an electronic warfare pod, just like slap that sucker on there, fly around, and then when it lands, we turn it off. But like we have to do a lot of filtering on our data because we have to start recording the second we take off. So we have like like a long overlapping thing of just the launch, a long overlapping thing of just the landing, and it really kind of like messes up the data we work with afterwards. We have to do a lot of sanitization to it. So being able to only record data when you want to record data instead of having to kick everything off remotely and then using as much tape as we used on our prototype sounds really cool. So I would love to see this. It sounds really interesting. Maybe we could even feature something like it on the show. That'd be really cool.
We've also done like war flying with the ESP8266. It'd be pretty interesting, like with the newer module, to see what other things we could strap on, like even LoRa or different communication protocols.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We were even gonna make like a custom circuit board that came with a few of those features built in, so it's like just really easy to plug and play and get started with war driving or war flying. Or
if you fly it into a building. Very funny, Julian. I'm still pretty upset about that. So if you didn't hear, my first and most precious drone finally bought the farm in Spokane, Washington, a couple days ago. Call sign was crashed down, and indeed it did. It broke its gimbal, it broke a motor control arm after it smashed into a clock tower going 25 miles per hour while doing a loop. So
that was an unfortunate encounter.
I also saw it coming, And I was just like, maybe it'll be fine. And it was not fine.
No.
It was not, I could have stopped it and I didn't. So I feel a little responsible for that. So unfortunately, we're not going to be getting any, okay. I have a reserve drone that is very sketchy and very scary. But on a reliable fashion, we probably won't be getting any more flying stuff up, at least until DJI sends me a new drone to crash. So thank you for reminding me, Silvio. Julian. I'd almost managed to move on. Okay, so one question that I think is totally valid. Does the TSA give you a hard time when they see all the stickers on your computer and maybe the hardware that you carry, both antennas and gadgets? This comes up constantly because we fly to hacker conferences, we fly to all sorts of places with just what looks like disassembled bomb parts. Like, you know, if I was just an ignorant person that just assumed that all raw electronics were potentially a bomb, the stuff in my bag would alarm me so incredibly badly because it looks like I am going to go teach a class on making bombs. So yes, absolutely, TSA is a little bit sketched out by our stuff, but it's really 50-50. Like sometimes when I fly with all this stuff, they have zero questions whatsoever. And it's like they've seen this a million times. They don't even make me take my stuff out. And I'm just like, really? And sometimes, like when I was flying back from Germany, this guy like had never seen anything like this. And he did like every test he had. And even then he still just sat there and glared at the box of electronics, like as though waiting for it to like give itself up. So yeah, like that was like that German TSA agent was like extremely thorough. Every piece of electronics was swabbed for explosives. Every piece of anything was swabbed for drugs, for anything. So it was we got way more attention than we wanted to on that particular trip because of all the electronics we have. But in general, I would say I get a lot less attention for the weird electronics that I have, and sometimes I have a whole lot of them than I would expect. So it is a credit to the TSA that like they are able to cut through all of that and just not waste everyone's time flagging through all of my electronics. Whenever I say I'm going to a hacker conference, they always do this.
Nice.
And that's it. They never have any reaction beyond that. So I feel like TSA gets such crazy things happening to them every day that I'm like I'm like a 6 out of 10. Like it's like not even, they're just like mildly interesting, on your way, because my situation is just not that complicated. So I feel like I've gotten really lucky. If you are going, somewhere sensitive or whatever, then maybe you would get more scrutiny than me. But at least I have a job that says security researcher. So like anything that they point out, they're like, "What is this for?" I'm like, "Research." They're like, "Well, it looks like it could be used to break things." I'm like, "Yeah, like security research. That's my job. Look it up." So the job title has definitely helped me get through some scrutiny as well. All right.
Nice. Could a Raspberry Pi using a power bank have enough power for an alpha antenna?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've done that multiple times. In fact, my default mobile hacking rig is a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus with like an alpha wireless network adapter and then like a power bank and then like one of those little like color like remote keyboards with like the mouse trackpad on it. And then like VNC or something like that to connect to it from my phone. And most of the time, like usually I'll actually just I will have it connect to my phone's hotspot and then I will like SSH into it over just like an SSH application. And that's the way that I prefer to personally set mine up. You can also do it reverse, so the Raspberry Pi creates an access point and you connect to it, but I don't like that because it creates a captive portal situation where there's no data. So unless your Raspberry Pi has like an LTE module and it's like serving you data, then your phone just like stops working basically, which is not super fun.
No, yeah, I've done the exact same setup multiple times. They also have like these really cool UPS hats, Universal Power Source or something like that, where it's like a little hat you plug directly on top of the Raspberry Pi, and then it has like a really tiny LiPo battery that can power it up to a couple hours. And it's really slim too, which is useful.
Troll Whisperer, your drone sounds so frigging cool. Like I literally cannot wait to like see what this is all about. So I also don't know what's going on with all the like base 64 nonsense or whatever this is in here, but like if you guys are communicating in code, I'm gonna find out because that's what I do. Cool. Well, all right. I'm really excited to hear about some of the projects that people are mentioning in the group in the chat. By the way, so if you have a project you're working on, like honestly, like I find these fascinating. Both finding out that the Wi-Fi Pineapple could be itself hacked was pretty cool, and then this like LoRa like war driving drone also sounds really cool.
I tried decrypting Zam's base 64 and it came out to nonsense.
Yeah, that's not base 64. That's like something else.
Sketchy.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. This one's not really a question, but I paid for 2 Flipper Zeros on day 1, which I think was almost 2 years ago. Still waiting. Oof. Yeah.
Well, I hear that they're grinding through like all the problems. Wait, Michael just said Alex means uninterruptible power supply. Did you?
Close enough, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I said universal power supply.
Yeah, all right. There you go. Kind of sucks you're both Americans. What? Why?
Hey.
Wait, there's more to this. You'll never truly be able to do any GSM-based hacking like sniffing traffic, decrypting, and using IMSI catchers since you'll end up in Gitmo if you do.
Right.
Okay, that was a light, fine roast. It's a good joke. It's a great joke even, maybe, but
I take it personally.
I'm still gonna have to ask you to stop. Well, I'll say this: at least we can port scan stuff. That's all I got. It's just in Europe. You can't
Hey,
do that.
yeah, that's illegal for them, isn't it?
Yeah, so you guys
Yeah.
got to use Shodan, huh?
Nice.
I mean, unless you just live somewhere with no laws, in which case you have. If you're from Somalia, then I have nothing to say. You can do whatever you want. Okay. I think we're
Nice.
coming up on our time, but if you
Cool.
have any more questions.
I'll glance through real quickly. I don't think I see any.
All right. Well, I know that I had a couple not super cursed ones from
On
my
your
message
Twitter?
requests. Yeah. So let's go over to my Twitter.
Nice.
And this is the section of my Twitter I don't check very often because it's usually violent, scary, and weird. People asking for their girlfriends to be hacked or their best friend's Bitcoin got stolen and now I need you to recover it. This is their details, but please don't talk to them about it because it's supposed to be a surprise. I'm like, oh wow, I bet they will be surprised. But we got some normal ones. So one was, do you give beginner lessons? Would love to learn a lot from you. Aw, well, yes, we do. So we recently did a workshop in Los Angeles, which was our first class that we've done in actually quite some time. So if you want to check it out, we do most of our classes through a combination of Cyber Weapons Lab LA, which is a meetup group, and also Null Space Labs. So if you want to join one or both of those, Cyber Weapons Lab LA is just us, and then Null Space Labs is specifically in Los Angeles. We do also online classes. So sometimes we'll do like a class in LA, and then part of it will be remote. So if you want to check that out, you can check out Cyber Weapons Lab LA. The last one we did was with the Wi-Fi Nugget, and it was really, really fun. And we got to solder some nuggets with some really cool people, including Zam. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So yes, we do beginner classes, and we don't do them a lot, but if you want to stay up to date with them, you can check out Cyber Weapons Lab LA. And we've met a lot of super cool people, both from LA and then, just from all over the place on our remote workshops. So if you want to join us, then we would love to see you there sometime. Another question is more of a suggestion. So it's more about just hacking on dual band with the same SSID. It's so common now that different devices that are like routers and stuff like that are creating an access point will do it on 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz. So should we do a video on what to do when you have one of these access points where you start attacking a device on 2.4 gigahertz and it just runs away from you and just hides on 5 gigahertz instead?
I was literally just scrolling through the comments on my video, and I have like the exact same question basically. But yeah, that'd be an interesting one to address.
Definitely.
I think you could even do that. Yeah, you would just need probably like 2 Wi-Fi dongles, one on each band, or maybe even one. I'm not sure. That is both.
Yeah, and I've done this before. I think we did a nullbyte video forever about it, but it would be good to do a refresh and look at some of the new options for 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi hacking, because it's great when you have a antenna that supports both. It just makes everything easier.
Yeah.
All right, we have one from Hack FPV. By the way, thank you for your sympathy on me crashing my drone. I have an idea for a video. You could cover it using the Pineapple Mark V for 5 gigahertz using an adapter. So you guys really want 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi stuff. Don't you know that 5G is bad for you?
Yeah, it gives you cancer. You need to have like a tinfoil hat and like
I
all
have
this other
to,
gear.
at this point in the
just to
stream, I
protect
have to point out that Alex's views in no way represent our company, and he is not a medical doctor or scientist in any way, shape, or form. 5G has never been proven to cause cancer, and we do not endorse that belief. But aside from that, 5G is bad for you, so like, why would you want to know about it?
Right.
But anyway, it seems as though 5G is something you guys are interested in. So if you want a 5G episode, we will go through our big, large drawer full of antennas, figure out which ones support 5 gigahertz, and start doing some episodes
Our
on it.
assortment of cancer. All right.
We'll talk after the stream.
Okay. Sure.
All right. Okay. And we just hit 100 messages in the Restream chat. So thank you to everyone who participated today. Are we coming to South Florida for a workshop anytime soon? I just got back from like Tennessee not that long ago, and I'm going to be honest, it is humid down in that general region. So I might be good on that for a little while, but
Too sticky for my liking.
it's a little sticky. But you know, like there are some really cool hacker spaces out there. There's some really cool stuff going on out there. So maybe we might end up in like Miami or something like that sometime. I don't know. We'll take a look. Let's see. What do you think about Rainbow Crack versus using Hashcat or John the Ripper? All right, I think that's going to be my last question for today. What do you think about?
I haven't used Rainbow Crack. I assume it's based off rainbow tables or something like that.
What's a rainbow table?
It's a precompiled table of like a bunch of different possible combinations of passwords, characters, and stuff like that. So that way, instead of just like wildly guessing when you're trying to crack the password and like have to generate the hash, it's already like generated in a table full of like millions of different password combinations.
Yeah, so the trade-off with the rainbow table obviously is size. With the rainbow table, you end up with an absolutely massive size for the table, depending on how large of a space you want to be able to try to essentially like it's almost like brute forcing because you have to decide what goes into the rainbow table. So size is really the limitation there. Whereas with something like John the Ripper or Hashcat, you get the ability to generate things on the fly, which takes more processing power, but is also, in my opinion, like, well, it might not be faster. Well, that's a good debate. It's a good debate as to whether it's faster. It just uses resources in a different way and doesn't use as much size. So if you don't have a massive computer, then you can go ahead and use Hashcat, and it will take time and power, but not size, which is, you know, a concern for some people. So I would say Hashcat is by far my favorite. I think it's generally the better way to go about this sort of thing. I haven't really seen people use rainbow tables in a while, even though I know it's a thing and people used to do it a lot more. John the Ripper is also a good tool, but I still like Hashcat for, you know, the people asked us about cats earlier. You know, the name is very attractive to me, so maybe that's why I like it. But I also have interviewed people at hacking conferences about what their favorite tools are, and Hashcat has come up more than any other tool as people's favorite hacking tool. So it's obviously got a really good following, and you know, it's just a great tool.
Yeah, I even showed how you could deploy it on like a, what is that, Google Collab instance, where you could basically use the Google Collab service as like a remote server for doing hacking stuff, and how you could deploy like Hashcat on it and use the GPUs that come with the service to crack
to recover your own password.
To recover a password.
Yes, because
like
we don't want to get kicked off of YouTube again.
Right.
Right. So that, okay, final question. When are you coming to Kansas City, Missouri? As soon as you have a conference there for us to go to. We will go and we'll do a presentation there, and it will be great. You can show us Kansas City. Right, it's in Missouri, not Kansas. It's a little confusing.
Isn't it half and half? I'm pretty sure it's in...
Is it half and half?
I think
someone needs to tell us where it is, and we will show up. But
probably wherever the Squatch is.
Yeah, probably wherever the Squatch is. We'll have to ask our crypto specialist, Michael, cryptozoology specialist, Michael, because cryptocurrency isn't real. All right, and with that, we are going to end the stream today before anyone can fight me about that statement. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today and asked excellent questions. And if you have a question for us hackers, either about one of the videos we've done on Hack 5, one of the streams here, or anything that your heart desires, maybe the hacking industry, maybe how bugs are made, it doesn't matter, you can ask us. Then make sure to go to our YouTube channel, SecurityFWD. You can leave the comment there and we will read it out on the show and answer it. You can also show up, as many of you did, for the live stream and get the benefit of us joking around with you here. Yeah, we will see you guys next time. We'll have another stream on Friday, so make sure to catch that if you want to see our weekly hacking news. And aside from that, we'll see you all on Tuesday for our next Q&A stream. Thanks again. Bye.